Dear students, having discussed the nature of money, its functions, etc., now we consider the money supply process. That is, what determines the supply of money in the economy. Now, the quantity of money available is known as money supply. Money supply is the quantity of money available. And money supply is determined, one, by the policy of the central bank, Reserve Bank in India, or the central bank of a country. It is also determined by the behavior of individuals and also banks. So, money supply is determined by the policies of the central bank on the one hand, and also the behavior of individuals and banks. Now, when we talk about money supply consists of one, currency in the hands of the public. Currency in the hands of the public. It also consists of the demand deposits of the public with the commercial banks. So, M is equal to C plus DD. So, money supply in its narrowest definition consists of currency held by the general public and also demand deposits of the general public, the households, with the commercial banks. So, this is money supply, currency plus demand deposits. And to understand money supply, we must understand the interaction between currency and demand deposits. Interaction between currency and demand deposits. To understand money supply, we must understand the interaction between currency and demand deposits on the one hand, and also how central bank's policy influences these two components of money supply. To understand money supply process, we must understand the interaction between currency and demand deposits on the one hand, and also how the central bank's policy affects these two components of money supply. And remember this, money supply means currency held by the public and also the demand deposits of the public with the commercial banks. We will modify this later for the time being. And to understand these two components of money supply, we must know the interaction between these two components and how the policies of the central bank affect these components. We first consider a case of 100% reserve banking. 100% reserve banking. We first consider a case of 100% reserve banking. To explain this, you imagine a world without banks. In such a world, all the money take the form of currency notes. In a world without banks, all the money take the form of currency notes. Then the quantity of money, MS, is equal to the currency held by the public And now suppose that this quantity, currency is $1,000. In a world without banks, money supply consists of currency held by the public. And we assume that it is equal to $1,000. Now we introduce banks. Suppose that initially banks accept only deposits. Banks will not give loans. Banks accept deposits. Banks will not give any loans. Then the only purpose of the bank is to give a safe place to keep money of the public. The only role of the bank is to give a safe custody of the currency notes. Now, deposits received by the banks but not lent out is known as reserves. Deposits received by the banks but not lent out is known as reserves. So, bank accepts deposits worth $1,000, keep this in the form of reserves, and it will be kept there until it is withdrawn by the public. And this is a case of 100% reserve banking. It is a case of 100% reserve banking. The only purpose of the bank is to give a safe custody of the currency notes. Now we assume that the households deposit this $1,000 with the first bank. The first bank. Then the first bank's balance sheet can be written as, first bank's balance sheet can be written like this. In the balance sheet, assets are written on one side, liabilities are written on the other side. Bank deposits is a liability, so $1,000. The same $1,000 is an asset, so 1,000. So this will be the appearance of first bank's balance sheet. And bank keep assets worth $1,000, and this $1,000 is kept in the form of reserves. It is nothing but reserves. And $1,000, this is deposits. Deposits 1,000, reserves 1,000. Now assets of the bank is equal to the reserves equal to 1,000. Liabilities of the bank is again equal to deposits equal to 1,000. There is no profit. Bank may charge a small sum for providing safe custody to the currency. That is all. Now the question is, what is the money supply in this economy? In this economy, before the creation of the first bank, money supply was $1,000. Now, after the creation of first bank, again money supply is $1,000. Again $1,000. That means if banks keep 100% of the deposits as reserves, then banking system will not affect money supply. That is, in a 100% reserve banking system cannot affect money supply. Money supply is equal to currency held by the public before the establishment of the bank. It is equal to the deposits of the banks after the introduction of the first bank. Now we introduce fractional reserve system. We introduce what is known as fractional reserve system. Fractional reserve banking. Now suppose that banks use some deposits to give loans. The advantage is if a part of the deposit is used to give loans, banks will get interest on these loans. Banks will get interest on these loans. But banks cannot give the entire deposit as loans because banks are using public money. So banks are liable to give back the deposit money if demanded by the depositor. So banks will keep some fraction of the deposit as reserves to meet withdrawal requirements. Such a system is known as fractional reserve system. That is, the entire deposit is not kept in the form of reserves. A part of it will be kept in the form of reserves. Now suppose that reserves kept by the bank is 20% of the deposits. In the fractional reserve system, only a fraction of the deposit is kept in the form of reserves. After that, the remaining will be used to give loans to the public. So, let us write first bank's balance sheet then. Now, how it will be? Assets, liabilities. Liabilities is the same deposits, $1,000. Now, assets, reserves, $200 because 20% of the deposits is kept in the form of reserves. The remaining 80% or 800 is used to give loans. So under fractional reserve system, first bank's balance sheet look like this. Liabilities is equal to total deposits. Assets is divided into reserves $200, loans $800 on the assumption that reserve to deposit ratio is 20%. Reserve to deposit ratio is 20%. Actually, it is demand deposits. So, reserves to demand deposit ratio is 20%. It is known as the cash reserve ratio. Now, the first bank increases money supply by $800. Now, money supply is now equal to 1000 plus 800 equal to 1800. Money supply is now equal to 1800. So, of this 1000 is bank deposits, the remaining 800 is the loans given by the banks. And those who take the loan will get $800 as currency. So 1000 plus 800, 1800. So in a system of fractional reserve banking, banks create money. We will say that in a system of fractional reserve banking, banks create money. And this is the first stage. Money creation will not stop here. Suppose that the borrower has deposit with another bank. Let us say second bank. And the borrower deposits the loan money in his account with the second bank. Then second bank's balance sheet will be like this. Assets, liabilities. Liabilities is equal to deposits is equal to $800. Deposits now is equal to $800. Assets, 20% of 800 will be kept as reserves, that is $160. The remaining 640 will be used as loans. Now the bank creates another 640 amount of money. Now money supply is equal to 1000 plus 800 plus 640 is equal to 2240. And this process will go on. But banks cannot create infinite amount of money. This process will go on for some time, after which it will stop. Because as you can see, initially in the first round bank creates 800, in the second round 640, in the third round 20% of 640 will be kept aside as reserves, the remaining will be money created by the banks, and this process will go on for some time and eventually it will stop. Now to explain this process, suppose that RD denotes reserve to deposit ratio. RD is reserve to deposit ratio. Reserve to deposit ratio, reserve to demand deposit ratio. Now in our example it is equal to, say 200 by 1000 is equal to 0.2 or 20%. Reserve to deposit ratio is R by DD. Then the amount of money that the banking system as a whole creates can be written as original deposits equal to $1,000. Original deposit with the first bank. First bank lending is equal to, it is 800, can be written as 1 minus RD into 1000. 1 minus RD, that is 1000 minus 0.2 of 1000, that is 800. First bank's lending. Second bank's lending is equal to 1 minus RD square into 1000, that is 640. And this process will go on, so that we can write money supply as equal to, again it is 1 minus RD cube into 1000 like that, is equal to $1,000 into 1 plus 1 minus RD plus 1 minus RD square plus etc. And as you can see, this is a geometric progression with the first term 1000 and the common ratio 1 minus RD. Since 1 minus RD is a fractional value, this geometric progression can be written as 1 by RD into 1000. into 1000. MS is equal to 1 minus RD into 1000. So it means $1 reserve generates 1 minus RD amount of money. 1000, if RD is 0.5, in our example, let us see change in demand deposits. In this case is money supply is equal to 1 by 0.2 into 1000 is equal to 5000. So money supply in this case delta DD is equal to is 1 by RD into 1000 is equal to 5000. So in this case we have initially a currency equal to 1000. This initial amount of currency generates a total amount of money supply equal to 5000. And this analysis is based on the assumption that public will not hold any currency. The entire currency is deposited as demand deposits. So the entire increase in money supply is equal to increase in demand deposits in the banking system. The demand deposit increases by 5000. Initially 1000, 800, 640, etc., etc. That is money supply. This is the case of fractional reserve system. And remember this model is based on the assumption that public will not keep any currency, money in the form of currency. The entire currency or money is deposited as demand deposits. This 1 by RD can be considered as deposit expansion multiplier. This is not a money multiplier, this can be considered as deposit expansion multiplier. And in the next class, we will consider a simplified model of money supply. We will consider a simplified model of money supply in the next class.